Hey everybody. Oops, that's Google Drive. Just looking to do a little post-comm of a game that I played a couple days ago. This is for the LCD Ubers League, the off-season. Let me expand this and make sure that this is good. Alright, so I just want to go through this game. I like cataloging my games, my thought process. This is obviously not live. I wish it was, but I was preoccupied with other stuff, so I couldn't record this yesterday. I think this was yesterday. Anyhow, we have a match against Adembun. He had some other mons that he didn't bring. Really, the only one that I was worried about that he didn't end up bringing was Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh's a great mon. You should bring it when you can. I've got my team right here. Oh, let me actually go back to my... where did I post? Did I post the pace for this team anywhere? Hold up. There we go. Alright, so here's what I brought. Veltal, Choice Scarf, Intrepid Sword, Knockoff, U-Turn, Sucker Punch, Foul Play. Might seem weird to have Sucker Punch, well, might seem weird to have Foul Play and Sucker Punch on a Choice Scarf mon, but Sucker Punch can outspeed everything, obviously its priority, and get a kill if needed. If Psychic Terrain is not up, he had a Mega Alakazam that can run any ability pre-Mega, so obviously the best way to run that is Psychic Surge, Mega Evolve, and start spamming Expanding Force. It's pretty much impossible to switch into that unless you're a Dark type like Veltal. So we have Knockoff because it does good damage to most of the team. With Choice Scarf, it goes faster than everything except for Regieleki. Obviously, you can't outspeed that. Knockoff pretty much 2-hit KOs the majority of the team. Not Melmetal, definitely not. And it almost OHKOs Calyrex Ice. It does if we have any Stealth Rock damage up. And from what I've seen in the past, so a couple people, well, 2 people have Calyrex Ice in this little mini tournament, and it's absolutely a fucking problem. It's so strong, it's so fast. Glacial Lance is impossible to switch into. And when I say so fast, I mean it has the bulk to get up in agility, which I've seen people run before, which is what the set he ended up running. And with an agility, you hit 418 speed, which is crazy. So, 418? Somewhere around in the low 400s, which is super duper fast. So, that's a real threat. You have the bulk to take any one hit pretty much. Almost completely un-OHKOable. But I've seen lots of people run Intrepid Sword on Calyrex Ice. So if I hit you with Foul Play off of your boosted attack stat, that's always an OHKO, no matter what. Assuming your max attack, max HP. So that was a sick little piece of tech I thought up. This was originally dual wing beat, just for stab, but you don't need stab when you have stab knockoff with a scarf. And yeah, enough about that. As usual, Corviknight and Toxapex are my solid defensive core. With this set, we have only electric weakness here, and only a psychic and ground weakness here. Both full-on physically defensive, because this team, the scary things that I can't really check so well are both physical, Calyrex and Melmetal, and to an extent, Archeops. I figure I can tank anything Alakazam wants to do with Yveltal for the most part. Dialga was my dedicated lead. I was going to lead this thing no matter what, because it can OHKO Calyrex with Steel Beam. Doesn't take any kind of chip damage with Magic Guard. Doesn't take chip damage from Steel Beam. Doesn't take chip damage from Life Orb. Well, Steel Beam's a hell of a lot more than chip, but this is my Dialga. Steel Beam kills Calyrex, Draco, everything else. Fire Blast is for Melmetal, and Stealth Rock because Stealth Rock is incredible. And we're going to see this game just how good Stealth Rock can end up being, especially on a team lacking in hazard removal. Only real options are Aleki with Rapid Spin and Defog Archeops, but Defog Archeops is pretty suboptimal, I would probably say. We have Tinted Lens Zamazenta again. There's no double fighting resist. I can't remember if there's a ghost type on this team or not. I think this team might have had Gengar. Yeah, I probably had Gengar because I have Crunch on this. Anyhow, close combat 2 KOs the entire team. Assuming nothing has any boosts. Except for Gengar, obviously. Lastly, we have Iceus. This thing is the closest thing to a Calyrex Ice check that there is. And even this is what I had to do to check this. Use my 1 resistance on Ice Arceus with Dauntless Shield with max just to live the hit. So I could live the Glacial Lance. I could also live a close combat. And I could live, what is it? I think it's a close, yeah, I could live a close combat, burn them with Will-O-Wisp, and live a second one, and then recover off, and then chip away with Fire Blast there. Fire Blast and Judgment have pretty decent coverage on this team. Yeah, the only thing that resists that is Vaporeon, which ended up showing up, which was kind of a shock, but not too much. Vaporeon is a really good supportive move pool. So that is the team, pretty much relying on Yveltal and Dialga to deal damage, these two to pivot around, and Zamazenta to break holes for the other ones. Arceus is the blanket physical check to Calyrex, and kind of just the panic button if Calyrex starts taking kills and I have to bring in something to stop it. That's what Arceus is here for. Because surprisingly, the extreme speed ice spam didn't work too well against this team. So that was the plan. We got it on slow. We're gonna go into it. So up first we see Vaporeon, and I lead off with my Dialga. So when I see Vaporeon like this, I immediately considered the fact that it was probably Corrosion. And I made that call because Corrosion's really good into my team. Toxapex and Corviknight are incredibly difficult to break, and part of that is that they're both immune to poison. But obviously if you have Corrosion, they're not immune anymore. So I thought that was it would be a pretty smart to bring Corrosion Vaporeon, and I figured the worst it can do here is Toxic me, but of all my mons to sponge Toxic, Dialga is the one to do that. So I wanted to stay in and get my rocks up because I see there's only two possibilities to remove it, and two pretty big weaknesses here, and only Melmetal for the resist. So I thought these rocks would put in some work. So that's what we see. We see Stealth Rock right off the bat, and I do get hit with the Toxic, confirming that it is Corrosion. So after this, I just go for some damage. I honestly thought Draco would do more. Typically, when I see a Vaporeon, I like to think of it as the physically invested one. That's what I like to use, but obviously if you have something like a big Melmetal, you don't need the physical bulk so much. You can sponge it with Melmetal. So it takes just over half from the Draco Meteor, which was kind of disappointing, meaning I won't get the second one. Immediately the wish goes off and I see the lefties, so I realize I probably need to get out of here. I call Yveltal switch. Well, I bring in Yveltal because I was thinking most likely we're not going to Toxic again. They don't know any of my other abilities, and I'm already Toxic, so I would imagine that they probably don't want to waste the potential move, so I'm seeing either a Protect here or maybe a Flip turn. So Yveltal comes in, and we do see the Flip turn. They have a free switch here, so we're going to learn whatever the Yveltal counter is, and we see that it is Regieleki. I never learned what ability this thing was, but okay, so also keep track of how many times I get Stealth Rock Chip. It adds up super fast. So with this, I know Regieleki is probably set to outspeed my entire team with the Scarf. So right away, going to Toxapex. There's really no way for Regieleki to get around Toxapex with my Volt Absorb. It doesn't learn any coverage moves. Its only pivot move is Electric type, so it's going to have to sit in here and just have a bad time. Based on this, I have a free switch, so I get a free knockoff. Either knocking off Regieleki's item, knocking off Vaporeon, which ends up happening. That's exactly what I wanted. Getting rid of those leftovers does tons and tons of work, again, in the long term. And I expect probably a Toxic here. Toxicing Toxapex. It shouldn't happen. It's a bastard play, but that's the best play to go for there. So Dialga comes back in, but they read that and they get off a wish, which is a very, very good idea. Vaporeon's low to the point where anything is going to be able to take it out, and this Vaporeon is pulling a lot of weight for this team defensively and supportively with that Toxic Wish Protect set. No real way to do direct damage, but enough ways to rack up chip over time that could be incredibly frustrating. So I like the wish play there. I personally probably would have Toxic, but that would have been a misplay. So great job. We get the Protect off while I just start throwing out attacks to try to kill this thing because I just want it out of here. Go for a Steel Beam. I reveal that. Not too much of a shocker. If you have Magic Guard Dialga, it's running Steel Beam. Gets the 50% back. And I know from this point, it's within range of 2 Dracos. So I throw off a Steel Beam at first, calling the switch, because I wanted to get some damage without having to necessarily, use Draco the first time and then hit something weaker on the switch. So Steel Beam first, set it for a Draco KO. And now I know this is probably going to have to be a Protect turn, because if they don't Protect, they lose Vaporeon. But I don't know what I did here, man. I just got kind of antsy, I think. Yeah. So Draco into a Protect definitely sucks. Probably in retrospect should have switched there. So from here we have a switch into Toxapex, realizing that probably there's not going to be a Toxic this turn. So we get off another wish to heal itself for the rest of the team. And then based on this, what do I do here? I think at this point I predicted the switch because I've already switched back in Dialga on the Toxic once, so I figured they probably wouldn't try it again. We have a Dauntless Shield Melmetal come in. From here, I do try to go for the Toxic. Okay, at this point, I remember I was trying to trade Toxics. I have Recover on this, so I can heal more immediately, and I still have my Black Sludge with no knockoff on this team. So I'll be able to out-heal Vaporeon in the long run if we're both Toxic, which was a trade I was willing to make, but if I just whiff a Toxic, it wasn't in the worst. I would not have been in the worst spot. So Melmetal comes back in. We get some more Black Sludge healing. And from here, we see that it's pretty much a physically defensive Melmetal. I want to go for the knockoff here because I just wanted to remove its item. I don't want any passive healing. That's just elongating my problems. I stay in. I figure I could probably tank an Earthquake if it has it. Anything else, it's not going to really do any damage to me at all. So it does have Earthquake. I take 51, but thankfully I calced it. It's at this point I know that with my Black Sludge, the Earthquake is always going to be a 3-8 KO. So with my Recover, which I'm about to reveal, I will always end up winning this War of Attrition, assuming I don't get crit or anything. So I'm just shooting for a burn here. I don't get it. And then this is a great play. They go for a double Iron Bash, which gets the flinch, and that's going to prevent me from being able to heal, which now puts me in range of Earthquake. So now I'm in a pretty bad spot. This is pretty rough. So I have to switch here. I have to go to Corviknight, the only thing that can reliably tank anything Melmetal wants to do. Thankfully, they go just right for an Earthquake. So from here, I'm going to go... what do I do here? I think I probably just U-turn, right? Yeah, so I U-turn out knowing Melmetal's not going to stick in against a Corviknight. The fact that it has Earthquake probably means it does not likely have Thunder Punch. It might, but I don't think it ends up happening. I don't think it ends up showing it. Otherwise, it probably would have gone for it there. So based on this, I know at this percentage, I can get a KO with knockoff if I manage to hit Vaporeon. So I bring in a Veltal on the switch, and then from here, I throw out my, what do you call? Yeah, I throw out my knockoff. Unfortunately, I get predicted, so I have to get back out of there, back into Corviknight. And I figure at this point, I thought I could have done two things. Oh yeah, so it is Body Press. That's the fourth move. So I thought I had two options. I could go back into Toxapex, possibly eat an Earthquake and die. Don't want that. I could go into Corviknight, and maybe I get paralyzed, or maybe I take a negligible amount of damage. So that sounds a lot better to me. So I come back into Corv, and I end up dealing about just the same amount it did to me with my Rocky Helmet. I go for a Roost here. There's really no downside. Even if they do choose to Earthquake me, it won't be too bad in the long run. And here, this was a good play. It ended up paying off dividends. I get paralyzed right here, which now keeps me safe from the Vaporeon and its corrosive Toxic in the future. This also allows me to have the slowest U-turn, slower than Melmetal trying to do anything, so I can get in whatever I want safely. So he does end up going for the switch, and I go for my slow U-turn now, and I don't get it, which sucks. So I have to hard switch into Toxapex here just in case they throw out the electric move. Doesn't matter if he were to call that, that was the play I had to make, because sacking Corviknight there for no reason would be an absolutely losing play, because then I lose my best Melmetal answer, my best Archeops answer, and just a solid Mon. So I have to go in here. I let him get up a light screen, which is really not the worst thing in the world. My team is physically based with the exception of Dialga. Vaporeon comes back in. I believe I just go for a knock. Oh no, I go for a Recover. That's a smart play. So we're back in the situation of, do we want to trade Toxics? Possibly. But now that I have a paralyzed Corviknight, I do not need to worry about that. So I can come in, and now I can reliably get my slow U-turn. But again, I get paralyzed, which kind of blows. But I believe right here, I do go for the slow U-turn again. I go on, I doink him. I get a crit, which is nice. Chip helps. So I come back in with Veltal. And from here, I predict probably a switch or protect. So from here, I just go for a U-turn, which does a ludicrous amount of damage. 43 is crazy off of a leftover. Or not a leftover, off of a U-turn. We bring back in Corv just in case we want to get Toxic, and I do play that correctly, so we're nice and safe from Toxic. And what do? We get protected on. And I get paralyzed again. So I goes for the Toxic again, but I'm again just going for the slow U-turn. And at this point, I like my odds. I can send a Veltal back in. This thing does not have a Wish up, so it can't protect itself to save itself from a knockoff. So I just threw out the knockoff right here just to get some big damage. And my dumbass forgot to take off Vaporeon's item in the calc. So in my head, this was going to kill. And then I see 57, and I realized I have made a huge mistake. But thankfully, I don't get punished for it. I just get flip turned on. I think they were calling my play from last time. So I see Archeops come in, and two really weird things happen. It comes in, and it takes damage from Stealth Rock. I guess that's just one weird thing. But that reveals to me two strange pieces of info. One, it does not have Magic Guard. Two, it doesn't have Magic Guard, and it doesn't have Heavy Duty Boots. So I don't know what the hell this thing's about to do. At this point, I realize I probably need to switch in something that I don't really care too much about. And at this point in the game, I switch in to Big Zam, the Zamazenta. And good thing I do, because he goes for a fucking power herb with Unburden. So at this point, I realize, oh shit, this thing can just sweep my entire team. Realistically, Arceus probably would stop it, but since Meteor Beam has to charge, but I definitely can't switch it in. It's faster than I am, and I'll die if I take a Meteor Beam. So at this point, I realize I just had to sack Zamazenta, which is fine. I could tell from the start it wasn't going to be the biggest player on this game. So we come back in, and I sat on this for a while. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. I thought I just lost, but I remembered, oh, I put Sucker Punch on Yveltal. So we come back in, and I think Sucker Punch on a Scarf set really threw him for a loop. I definitely would not have predicted that, but I come in, I'm able to get the KO on Archeops and let Melmetal come back in. We come in, we see the Dauntless Shield. I'm now going back to Corviknight, who's pretty much immune to this Melmetal now. So they read that, go into Alakazam, which is a good play. Definitely a strong Mon, and this is a good time to set it up. So they come in, we get the Flash Fire boost. Not going to help Alakazam too much, let's be honest. We get a Focus Blast, and it does 53%, which is pretty substantial, honestly. I have max HP. Corviknight has a lot of HP. It has a decent SpDef stat, and that's a clean to it KO. So I do get the U-turn off, come back into Yveltal, and at this point, this is a pretty safe. I think it's a knockoff, right? Because I think at this percent, I think I 2 a KO. Oh, never mind. I could have gone for a knockoff there, but I guess I didn't. So I get in Dialga. I know it's faster than this. I know they don't have a switch in for Steel Beam, and I miss, which is awesome. So I take 50 from a Body Press, and then I just go for Steel Beam again, and I finally get the KO on Melmetal. The defensive wall is finally falling apart on this team. The only other defensive piece we have is Vaporeon, and from here, I know that Regieleki really can't do anything to me. So I throw off a Draco, and I miss. Definitely not a fun 2 turns in a row. Anyways, Vaporeon comes back in, is about to die to the Stealth Rock, so I throw out a Steel Beam. I manage to pick up the KO. All the defensive pieces are gone, and now it's Calyrex versus the world. So Calyrex comes in, gets the Intrepid Sword boost, and thankfully my Dialga is able to actually hit the Steel Beam, which KOs Calyrex through the light screen, which is crazy. Life Orb, Steel Beam is definitely nothing to mess around with, so get the KO cleanly there. I forgot to go over my Dialga set more. So this Dialga set, it's pretty carefully EV'd. This survives a close combat, I think, at +1 from a Calyrex. It's either close combat or it's a Glacial Lance. It's one of the two. It survives that with like 1% from Adamant +1. So that's like if it was a Scarf Calyrex. I have enough speed here to outspeed max speed Calyrex by 1 point, and then the rest is just dumped into special attack. And clearly it did the job. It was able to take down literally one of the biggest threats I've ever had to prep for. So Calyrex does go down. I'm in a pretty good spot here. Alakazam comes in, dies to the rocks, and Regieleki comes back in. At the end of the game, at this point, it's kind of a foregone conclusion. Could not even hit Toxapex if it tried. So we throw off a Draco Meteor, and that is the game. So very well played to Adembun. Super scary team. I just got a couple good turns in there that really sealed the deal. So yeah, great plan. Great game. And another thing that I wanted to talk about briefly, this is a super good example of Stealth Rock and its utility. I added it up. I forgot to show it here, but over the course of this game, Stealth Rocks did like 133% to his entire team. So That's a whole mon gone right there, which just makes my Veltal and Dialga have a significantly easier time cleaning up the rest of the mons that are left. So that was the game. Post-comms are definitely not as fun, but there's less ums and but there's also a lot more of me misrecalling things. So you win some, you lose some. That's the match. I'll have another one of these next week, and hopefully I have another one after that. We'll see. Peace.